Hey Dragonauts, what's Dragon on? Flame back here with another deck, looking at Jund Invoke Despair for the Phyrexia ONE meta. Before I get into the deck, please remember to hit that subscribe button to stay up to date on all the new decks in MTG Arena. And with that, let's talk Invoking Despair into our opponent. And of course, the best way possible. What's that? It's Jund. You know the game. We want to play the value colors, and Jund's got the value you need here between card advantage, removal, and an overall great strategy to guarantee a turn 4 Invoke Despair almost every time. Let's talk strategy of the list. First off, you know the card. It's been around, Invoke Despair. 5 mana, target an opponent, they have to sack a creature, then do an enchantment and a planeswalker. Every time they can't, they lose 2 life and you draw a card. Big value is the name of the game with this list, and we want to maximize our way to find Invoke Despair, generate any extra removal of targets we can. So Invoke is always hitting for at least 4 points of damage on our opponent and getting us 2 cards to keep card advantage rolling. The more cards we can play against the opponent, the better we will do in the long run. To play into that, there are some synergies with this list. Let's talk about the synergy package. Now that you know that the whole point is casting Invoke Despair. First off, Armored Scrapgorger, Mana Ramp, and Graveyard Head. I am a big fan of Scrapgorger in a lot of my decks, playing in that it can just eat away targets from a graveyard, so Reanimator decks fear it, Corpse Appraiser hates it, and you are just playing yourself a turn early with availability of mana. Next up, Tyvar, the Jubilant Brawler. The Tyvar package, enabling your Reflections of Kiki-Jiki to tap right away, your Scrapgorgers to tap right away, your Bloodtithe Harvester to tap right away. All of these together for a great all-around package of targeting a graveyard, targeting your creatures, or just targeting for removal. In all, Tyvar also comes with that upside of being able to untap one creature, so you can do a reflection twice in a turn, or you can mill 3 cards to return one of your 2 or less mana value creatures from the graveyard to the battlefield. So Scrapgorger can come back, a Bloodtithe Harvester can come back. Most of the time, Tyvar is going to grab a Bloodtithe Harvester. And that's fine, that's what we want. The more blood tokens we have, the better, because that's more card advantage we can dig into. I don't want to get into the card advantage part, we're not there yet. Let's finish off in our synergy here. Deck is also running Miglas, the Maze Crusher from Phyrexia ONE. Miglas is a great 3 mana 4/4, comes in with 5 oil counters. The oil counters have a variety of uses. First off, you can use them to buff it by +2/+2 if you remove 2 oil counters. You can remove 1 oil counter. This will give Miglas Vigilance and Menace until turn, so you can push a lot of damage with Miglas. The last one I think is the most important. 3 mana and remove 3. Destroy target enchantment or artifact. So if you are up against mono white mid range with like Ossification, Wedding Announcement, if you are playing into Wrecking Your Bankbusters in the mirror of like Fabled Mirror Breaker, Miglas, jam it down, the next turn spend 3, remove some counters, easy. All of those are gone. You do not have to worry about them, and you still have your 4/4 ready to attack that you can either buff or give Vigilance and Menace. 10 out of 10. And of course, what is a deck that runs black if not with Sheholder the Apocalypse? With the amount that you are going to be looting and drawing, Sheholder plays so well into this list. Your additional blood tokens from Bloodtithe Harvester triggers, entering in, cycling through to find answers, that incremental 2 life every time. Just keeping you alive against other mid-range and aggro decks that will be putting a pressure on your life total. Sheholder is fantastic in this show. Now that's the synergy. Let's get into card advantage, because you want to draw into this, right? You need to play the game. How are we drawing in there? First off, you've already seen that Bloodtithe Harvester. Those blood tokens are going to be utilizing a looting effect, discarding any card you don't need and drawing a card. Fabled the Mirror Breaker, along on the same line. Aside from the fact you get the 2/2 Goblin token to make some treasure, discarding 2 and drawing 2. The last is really fun though, GLISSA the Sunslayer. So GLISSA attacks, deals comp damage, you get to choose from her amazing abilities. A lot of the time, I am choosing to draw a card and lose a life. I can also destroy an enchantment, or I can remove up to 3 counters from target permanent. Depending on how I need to draw my cards and dig further down, I will actually use GLISSA's last ability to remove counters from my Fable of the Mirror Breaker to reset it, back to lore counter 1. So on my next turn, it'll uptick back to 2 again, and I'll be able to draw 2 more cards and discard 2 more cards. Again, you know, getting more life with Shelly, that seems pretty good. GLISSA has a very functional role in this list, either getting you value by itself, removing something your opponent has that's denying you, or just helping you reset some counters to further draw more cards, which is great. Now, we of course want to draw into our big spell, Invoke Despair, but we also want to try to draw into some removal. That's our next package here. Removal is pretty key in this meta, handling any annoying creatures that your opponent has that will put pressure on you and stop you from being able to live and take out the game. So very common, cut downs and go for the throats. Some of the best premium removal we have access to. Also playing in here, Sheholder's Edict. This is in our versatility pile. So I split the removal into kind of the single target, all around good, and then our versatile remove it, because that is exactly what this does. Edict can let you target either a non-token creature, a creature token, or even a planeswalker for 2 mana. Your opponent gets the choice of what they can sacrifice, but the fact is, this is a versatile 2 mana removal of any one of those 3. So depending on the situation, you can choose the perfect response that your opponent will have to sacrifice. We're also playing a 1 of Soul Transfer here. Soul Transfer, most of the time, you'll be able to activate one of the modes, which is exiling a creature or planeswalker. The last one, returning a creature or planeswalker from the graveyard to your hand. If you control both an enchantment and artifact, as this is cast, you can do both modes. So between blood tokens and treasure tokens, and then Fable kicking around, there is a chance you'll get to do both. But what's nice is the exile effect and modular hitting of either a creature or planeswalker. So you have other interactions to stop your opponent from just kind of trouncing all over your face if they're a Super Friends deck or a control list. For the last removal spell here, Unleash the Infernal, 4 mana to deal 7 damage to a creature or planeswalker. Any excess damage that we do, we can use that to destroy something with mana value of equal or less than to the excess damage that is an artifact or enchantment. So in Jund, the way we have stylized this is to target extra artifacts and enchantments, because that is something that either just a Rakdos list without, like, Rakdos running a Braid can handle artifacts, but Mono Black and Rakdos kind of struggle for handling enchantments in general, aside from Invoke Despair. So by adding in the green, we've increased our flexibility to handle both artifacts and enchantments while targeting creatures and including exile effects. That's all a win-win. But if your opponent is just so go wide, your single target removal isn't doing it, well, thankfully, we have the Grixis command. Again, a functional piece of removal that can do a lot of things. First off, you can force your opponent, well, not your opponent per se, but you can destroy each creature with power 2 or less. For you, it doesn't hit it much. For your opponent, it probably hits their entire board if you're using that mode. Secondary, each opponent sacrifices a creature with the highest power among they control. This is great for just taking out a big threat that the opponent has. You can also recur back 2 creatures from your graveyard to your hand. And probably one of my favorite modes, to be honest, is putting 2+1/+1 counters on a creature and then giving it lifelink at the end of turn. Very strong against aggroless, keeping you alive to put in some pressure. It may also just put in the final damage against your opponent, so their life total is gone and you take the game. Let us talk sideboard though. How are we sideboarding? What are we considering for the sideboard and what are we doing? For control, you're realistically switching over to being a hand disruption semi-planeswalker package. So Duresses will come in. These are great to handle removal spells and board clears. You're also going to want to bring in Thrun. Thrun cannot be countered. Also can't be the target of non-green spells or abilities your opponents control. On your turn, it's indestructible. So Thrun, basically, your opponent has to board wipe on their turn, which forces them to tap down and use up some mana. So Thrun demands a response when it comes out. Luca, Bound to Ruin, is also going to come in. The big reason for Luca here is that -1, we can just continually make 3/3 Phyrexian Beasts with Toxic. If your opponent's life total isn't a problem, it soon will be with Luca, because after they've spent their single target removal on their board clears, Luca is just going to keep replenishing the board state to make more and more and more. And then using your Soul Transfer, you can just bring Luca back from the graveyard, put it back to your hand, and start the process all over again. Lastly, tying up for what we want to bring in is Urbrest, the Heretic Praetor, disrupting their draw and being able to attack in with a 4/4 with haste right away. And the Tyrannix Rex, 7 mana, 8/8. Can't be countered. So it's already big and beefy. Also has Trample, also has Ward 4, and has Haste and Toxic 4. So Rex just slams in and goes to face. Against a control deck, this is an annoying creature for them to handle. You can guarantee that by the time this is coming out, they will have tapped out for a potential board clear or utilize some other spells. So being able to respond to it is hard because of the Ward 4. Plus, it just can't be countered. So Rex is a great include. Touching on the mid-range and falling into that same shell will be Reanimator decks. If you're up against like Invoke Despair, sort of kind of mirror matches in Jund or in Grixis, Duress is a great item to bring in. You can just force the discard on their removal spells or Invoke Despairs. Dreams of Steel and Oil to take away their bank busters or key creatures in hand. Unlicensed Hearse to eat away at their graveyard. This is especially strong if you're up against a mono blue tempo. And if you are still running into more enchantment heavy base decks like mono white midrange, Terra Sunder. Ossification, it's, well, torn apart. It's no problem at all. And playing in for Aggroless, honestly, there's not much you need to sideboard in against aggro. Luca can be a consideration for up against aggro just because you can make the 3/3 beast as a more board state to continue blocking. But aside from that, between your creature cards and your life gain off She Holds Rid and the Grixis command, there's a lot of ways you can just stabilize against aggro and keep them from popping off. Dragonauts, that is Jund Invoke Despair. Please enjoy the games. That's fantastic. I love that. All right, let's go ahead and take the play. So we're missing the green for Scrap Gorger, but we do have Blood Tithe Harvester and Edict, plus the Invoke Despair. So if I do draw in the green, I can actually get a turn 4 Invoke with my Scrap Gorger. So I'll keep. Like, we have the lands basically to get there, and still a good removal at the start, depending what opponent is playing. Grixis. All right. Well, in that instance, we'll play in our Blood Tithe Harvester here. Opponent has their own Blood Tithe Harvester. There's my green. I'm gonna go ahead and play in the Proving Grounds here. And I'm actually gonna Edict, getting rid of the Blood Tithe Harvester so we can shove in 3 damage. More often than not, opponent next turn plays in like Fable of the Mirror Breaker. Oh, it's just Bankbuster. Ooh, even better. That actually is totally fine for us. Let's just go to combat. We have Invoke Despair guaranteed next turn, which is great. So let's try to knock them down to 14. Alright, so priority is held up for the blood token. We don't know if they have any other answer. So cash in place Scrap Gorger and pass the turnover. They don't cycle the blood. Interesting. Black Cleaves and tapped. Hey, what's going on, Harley? How you doing tonight, friend? Welcome in. Upgrading my Scrap Gorger. Sure. That's fine. Hey, what's going on, Leon? How you doing tonight? Let's go to combat first. Boop. And we'll go for Invoke Despair here. I doubt they're main decking Spell Pierce. Yeah. Nice. Opponent's at 5, we're at 19. Fresh hand of 5 cards. That's perfectly fine. I'm honestly very fine where we're at. Let's just go Fable of the Mirror Breaker here. And I'll play in a Blood Tithe Harvester as well. Harley, how's your night going, friend? And Leon, how you doing as well? Another Invoke Despair. Well, I don't have another land, but I think I'd rather keep the extra damage from the Blood Tithe Harvester here. there's Shelly. Well, that works. Pop them down to 2. Now they need to spend a removal on Shelly. Nope. We get the game. Alright, there's game 1. Game 2, we are going to bring in some discard spells here. Up against Grixis midrange, this is really where Dreams of Steel and Oil and Duress can shine. Has fantastic discard spells, giving us key information from the opponent's hand, taking away either removal or fable, or even a Corpse Appraiser or Sheholder, just exiling stuff fantastically. So we've taken out a few different threats, gives us some mana stuff, and just brought that in. Let's see how game 2 goes. Double Scrap Gorger, Harvester, and Unleash. I am actually okay with this hand. I don't mind trying to get the Scrap Gorger on turn 2. Because it also just means if my Scrap Gorger resolves, and they play in Fable, I can unleash the Infernal and kill both the token and Fable. No blocks, I'll take it. Ah, they didn't. I think in that instance, I'm going to Dreams of Steel and Oil here then. No Corpse Appraiser for you, my friend. No Corpse Appraiser for you. Oh, let's just sit back and say no attacks and pass the turn. Discarding a land. Let's go ahead and Edict then. No Blood Tithe Harvester either. Corpse Appraiser gone away. Things are feeling like a really good day. Windfall, sure. What did they discard? Another land, eh? That's fine. Yeah, I think I'm just gonna sit back for the... Well, I'll go Blood Tithe Harvester. I thought about Gorger, but I think I want the Harvester instead. Get that Shivan Wraith. I agree, and for the fact that I'm eating their graveyard makes me feel even better if it is. Like, I've just got knowledge of that Make Disappear, and I just get to play around it, right? Brotherhood's End. It's unfortunate, but fine. The Bankbuster. I think this Unleash the Infernal is not going to do me any good here. I kind of need some land drops. There is a land. Okay, so we're going to go for a plan here. We're going to play in Fable, and I'm going to see if I can get them baited out for that Make Disappear on the Fable, so that we can Invoke Despair next turn. Perfect. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. 2 cards in hand, completely tapped out. We love to see it. And we get a Duress off that Invoke Despair. Goodbye, go for the throat. Fantastic. Now that is unfortunate. Another Corpse Appraiser. Pappy with the cartoon voice, you got it. So Pappy, cartoon voice, of the 3 that are listed, you've just got to let me know what voice you would like. Oh, they're going right for the attack. Oh, interesting. Well, that's fine. So yeah, you just got to let me know what of the 3 voices and what line you'd like me to say. No Fable for you. Here, how about Shelly? All right, you got it. Let me finish this battle, and then I'll get your friend. Opponent goes down to 4. Another Bankbuster. Opponent goes down to 2. That is commitment from the opponent. And there's the game. Dragonauts, thank you so much for sticking around to the end of the video. It is always appreciated. Please remember to hit that subscribe button to stay up to date on all the new decks for MTG Arena. And as always, Dragonauts, keep believing. I'll catch you next time.